What's up, everyone? You are listening and watching the Wrestling Informer. We are back to give you the results of the end of the year awards and a little bit of news. I'm Cav Manning. I'm from the Lingus Mafia podcast. Go see all my nonsense. Everything is at Lingus Mafia, including TikTok, for God's sake. So that is your leader in the news right next to me. But I don't know if he'll be a leader in the NFL playoffs wearing that kind of stuff. It's so funny. Look at, I have my horrible team, but I have stuff on the horizon because everyone got fired, Billy. So I have my Bears. You have your Packers. That's Mr. Billy Body, by the way.
Yeah, we're not playing this week, so we get to heal up. Do you know Aaron Rodgers hadn't practiced all season, since he got that foot injury.
That foot thing, yeah. He doesn't need to. He's one of, it's like, there's certain guys you go, all right, that's fine. He don't really need to.
He entered his first practice session yesterday for the first time in months.
Maybe that might be a problem. Maybe that'll be the jinx. You go, don't do anything differently. Don't do anything differently. They got to be nervous, though.
No, there's no one there, I don't think, that will beat us. I'm more worried about, I don't want to play Houston. Sorry, not Houston. I don't want to play Tennessee in the Super Bowl.
Really? Tennessee? I don't even think twice about Tennessee for some reason. It's like, even though they're first place, I'm like, yeah, whatever.
First place in 11-1. Like the last time a team was that big was when the Philadelphia Eagles lost Carson Wentz.
No kidding.
They were replaced by who was it? Was it
Foles? Foles, yeah. Foles. Yeah, one of my quarterbacks.
Yeah, and they were not the favorites to win the NFC, and they were way down for the Super Bowl. They were like 16-1.
Man, it was like every game they were like, oh, they're gonna lose, and then they kept on underdog mentality. So we're going to give you the results. We had voting on our Twitter, and that was at K100 Informer. That is our Twitter here, and we had a bunch of categories. We took a couple weeks for everybody to vote on it so we can tally up the votes. Do you want to go over, because the PWI just had their little everybody voted. I guess it's fans voting, and it pretty much tells you that only AEW fans look at that magazine.
Or it tells you that Tony Khan is bribing off all the mark sheets, all the Meltzers and the Johnsons and these magazines. The thing is that print is dead. Like print is dead. No one's buying magazines anymore. I used to buy that magazine.
I still like a magazine. I still like to have something in my hand, like a book.
But that particular magazine, for me, that was always the must buy for a flight. Like I would get through that on a flight all the time. I remember it, but. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter in 2022. I mean, the AEW are wasting their money on the wrong things.
Yeah, I see. Like, I was talking to Fausti about it, and he was like, "Oh yeah, did you hear the match of the year?" I couldn't believe when he told me what the match of the year was.
What was it? I didn't see that.
It's a woman's match. Is match of the year.
Oh God, is it that Britt Baker match from TV?
Yes. From was it St. Patrick's Day? And I'm like, that was match of the year. I'm like, wow. I am like amazed, because I go, well, who's wrestler of the year? It has to be Roman Reigns. It has to be. There's no question about that. No, Omega, of course. I'm like, holy God. I mean, even they said the last time women's match of the year it was the Iron Woman's match, 30 minutes, which I laughed at. That's an Iron Man match. Iron Woman's match, Bayley and Sasha. And we both said that wasn't even the best match. It was the match prior that was the best match between the two of those girls.
Right.
Where they stomping on the hand and all that. I'm like, what? So, yeah, they kind of lost credibility. As soon as I heard all that nonsense, I was like, whatever.
They're all losing credibility because they're all getting old. And yeah, I mean, Tony Khan is buying out all the people he's buying out the guys who he bought the Observer, he read the Observer, he read the PWI, and now he wants to be friends with them all. I mean, this is not a business. I'm telling you, this is not a business. Like it's a toy. It's a toy where, I mean, the business model is set up to lose $100 million in the first 5 years. You have $175 million per year television money coming in. and you're using that for your. Is that? Let me just check that. And you're using that simply just to pay off your talent. Like you're using that just for your wage bill. Let me just.
It must be nice to be, a gazillionaire and be able to, dump money around. But I mean, they're having guys come back like this last week, the surprise person and everything like that. And I'm like, who's that? No
It is
clue.
it is $175 million. It's not per year, though. I don't know what I'm saying. It's $45 million per year.
Okay. So let's get to the first category we had, and that was for best character of the year. You want to start with that, Billy? I could do that for you. Yeah. Our choices were Dan Lambert, Hunter Brock Lesnar, MJF, and Roman Reigns. Do you want me to go in order from least votes to best?
No, go third and then second, then go fourth and then go first.
Okay.
No, don't do that. Like, there's only one way to do it. Like, come on.
Well, I'm gonna give the winner. Do you want me to just tell you what each one had in order? I mean, of garbage.
Let me tell you this.
Okay, you go ahead. Let me see.
Dan Lambert came in fourth with 4%.
There you go.
Hunter Brock Lesnar was third with 11%. MJF was the runner-up with 21%, and your winner was Roman Reigns with 64% for the best character of the year.
Okay, so that was pretty much what we thought, right? I mean, did you have any other thoughts on that than what we've said?
No. When you define this, well, and we had this go on to talk about this, and sometimes it can be when you're looking at a character, you're looking to define it outside of people who are sort of people that are playing someone way beyond themselves, Bray Wyatt, Undertaker, these kind of characters, but they don't really exist that much in the current form. So, yeah, I mean, you can just add real wrestlers to this and just look at people who are playing their role really well, because with television being oversaturated with so many matches, now just simply doing your role correctly and efficiently has become what a character is. There's no Undertaker, there's no Kane, there's no Bray Wyatt, there's no Doink, there's no. We had that terrible Alexa Bliss character, but these characters,
back.
Yeah, these characters have ended up more so on the worst character of the year kind of thing. I mean, and that Luchasaurus is another one, and he just about missed out. So it's hard to define what a character is now. Or a lot of these guys got put into the categories for best babyface and best heel and best wrestler of the year in general. So it shows you how little there is out there at the moment in terms of what was good. And this character, ideally, in a really, really good year, if you're looking at something like the Attitude Era, you would actually put the characters in here. You'd have your Mankind's, your Kane's, your Undertakers, etc. And even maybe, see, that's the thing. The Rock's a character. Like that's
they're all pretty much, you would kind of almost put all of them in a character.
Yeah, and that side of things is gone. So, yeah, this is what we had.
So we're going to best heel of the year. And it was Kenny Omega, Becky Lynch, Roman Reigns, and MJF. Those were your picks. And Kenny Omega had a whole 1% coming in dead last.
Wrestler in the year had 1% of doing his job.
The wrestler of the year could not get barely a percent for best heel of the year. Then you had coming in third, Becky Lynch with 4%. And then it jumps quite a bit because you have second place being MJF with 34, but Roman Reigns with 61. I don't know if I agree with this one as much. I think the real heel role, like we were talking to Bischoff about this.
That's what I'm saying, yeah, Bischoff.
Yeah, and it was more about what is a heel to you, because how I said the Reigns heel was the cool Diesel, Nash heel. And it was almost like a separate category for the difference in heel. It's very apples and oranges, even though it's heel. So I would think MJF is like, when you're doing true heel, it's MJF. But Roman Reigns wins this with 61%. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agreed with Bischoff at the time as well. One thing I'm noticing going through these polls is that they're very mashed up, like because if I want to do like the worst character of the year, it's like further up. So yeah, be wary of the order here when you
Okay.
do it.
All right. So going to the next. What do you want next? We have storyline of the year. We could jump to that.
Did you
We
get
go to
do the worst character of the year because we already did the best character of the year.
okay. Let me go to there's wrestler of the year. So where is okay?
We didn't do
Worst.
baby we didn't do babyface of the year, did we?
No, I don't think so. That was pretty much just going to be wrestler. I think worst character of the year.
You got
We
it.
had to choose from Madcap Moss, Nikki ASH, Alexa Bliss with Lily, and Cody Rhodes. This was a little more. This was tighter. Three of them, and then it was jumping to number one. So Madcap was last with 12%. And then you had Alexa Bliss with Lily for 21%, Nikki ASH for 26, and then the whopping 41% was Cody Rhodes. Nobody likes Cody Rhodes. What do you think?
Yeah, again, I don't know if this is a character because I think Cody Rhodes is being Cody Rhodes, and when Cody Rhodes is Cody Rhodes, nobody likes Cody Rhodes. So I think just the personality of Cody Rhodes won him this award, and it's the one you want to win the least on this poll. I mean, all these characters. You could have added the Dark Order, which we had initially. You could have added Luchasaurus, which Disco Inferno said. You could have added the Street Profits. This was the one category where we were deducting a lot of names. This is the one category where we had a longer list and had to cut through. It shows you what kind of year we've really had in wrestling.
We'll go to moment of the year next, and then we'll hit storyline. So, moment of the year, you had to choose from CM Punk and MJF's exchange, John Cena returns, Brock saves Heyman, or the return of CM Punk. This broke down 5% last place was CM Punk and MJF exchange, which was pretty damn good, but I guess that's not a moment that you would base the whole year around. At 18%, it's Brock saving Heyman. And then I'm surprised that second place at 27% is John Cena returning. I wouldn't think anything of this. We'll talk about it. But number one, 50% was the return of CM Punk, which I would have to agree with a guy who hasn't been there for 7 years, comes back to the industry. Do you think Cena deserves to be as high as it was? Because I almost think of it as, yeah, he comes back once a year to do something for the most part, and I expect it.
He does, but this was a longer time that he was back for. It was the first pay-per-view back with crowds, the second show back, and then you give him John Cena. I think the reaction to it was different to reactions that Cena's had before in terms of it being just completely unanimously happy to see him. It was very attitude era in line with what the pop was. So yeah, I agree that should have been second. So
okay, storyline of the year.
Mm-hmm.
We had Omega and Hangman, CM Punk, MJF, Charlotte and Becky, and then Roman, Brock, and Heyman. This broke down Charlotte and Becky only 6% dead last, which is surprising because that was a pretty good, dipping into realism, right?
And that was something that Bischoff said that he was his favorite. So
these two are real neck and neck. Omega and Hangman, 10%, followed up by CM Punk and MJF at 11%. And then overwhelming first place, 73% Roman, Brock, and Heyman, which I fully agree. I would think that it should, in my order, it's Roman, Brock, Heyman, number one, CM Punk, MJF, number two because of the mic skill stuff, and then Charlotte and Becky, but very close because of the realism. And then Omega, Hangman, I could give two.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is this is indicative of a bad year because the MJF Punk match hasn't happened, and they're bleeding this into 2022. And Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns are building towards the main event of WrestleMania. So yeah, that kind of tells you that 2021 didn't have its own individual feuds that were good enough to get on this poll. I mean, there were some, like Bianca Belair was in a feud with Becky. Bianca Belair was in a feud with Sasha Banks.
Not good enough to do anything, though, really.
Edge was in a feud with Seth Rollins. It didn't make the poll, largely because I don't think they did enough to build up towards Hell in a Cell, even though the match was really good. Roman Reigns had various feuds with Cesaro, with Daniel Bryan, where he got him off SmackDown. If he lost him again, he would leave SmackDown. He had feuds with Edge, but overall, and he had Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton as well, but that was a disaster. So overall, yeah, I mean, it's not a great year, and the winner is a feud that's riding into 2022.
Female Wrestler of the Year. We gave you choices between Mandy Rose, Bianca Belair, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch. Taking it in the rear was Mandy Rose with 17%. Then going to Charlotte Flair, which just pretty much tells you people are sick of her because she's had the belt and she's in the mix and everything like that. But she was gone, I guess, for a little bit. She gets 19%. And then coming in second place, 21% is Becky Lynch. She made it later in the year. And first place, 43% is Bianca Belair. I would say you go this way. She was there for the entire year. She's been on the rise and doing stuff. Even if you don't like her or anything, she's been the main focus for them, it seems.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see if we could have made this a 6-person. I think Mandy Rose deserved to get in just for when we talk about people being dead and not going anywhere, and then all of a sudden transforming their character. No one else has done that. Charlotte's still the same Charlotte. Becky's had a character transformation, but a lot of people are against it in terms of they want to root for her. And Bianca Belair is a worse version of what she was in NXT. But Mandy Rose is totally different, and it deserves to be on the list. I don't get the whole thing with Britt Baker. For me, she's the only woman in AEW that's over. And I think she got over doing something else initially. It wasn't her wrestling. And then she had to bleed. And then the other week on Rampage, we see these other women trying to bleed to appease Dave Meltzer. This company is sometimes just sad to see what they're trying to do. That they don't need to do all this. And Tony Khan, with the level that he's at in business and everything, he shouldn't be encouraging this excessive blading of women. I know people are going to turn around and go, oh yeah, but they want to be equal and all that. Well, you're not equal. You're not equal. I can lift more than women can. And most men can.
But do you appreciate the blood more? I mean, I'm glad they bleed on that show at least, and I don't really care who does.
I don't want to see women bleeding. I don't think it's appropriate. It's not social justice.
Well, all women bleed though.
Not from their head, right? So it's and in fact it's not social justice. In fact, it's the opposite way because this will come across as sexist. But I can give it women are women. They're not supposed to do everything that men do. It's one thing for them having them wrestle, but I don't want to see them bleeding out of their
See,
head.
I don't mind it. I really don't. I think it's because we don't ever see it. And so it was the shock factor too. It's oh my God, look, Bunny was gushing, she's
and she's going to permanently have a blading scar on her head. Is that what you think is right?
It's their choice is what I think it is. And I doubt somebody said, go out there and I want you to, cut yourself this and that. And I don't see how that's possible, but
that's my issue. The fact is their choice and they choose to do it. So in what kind of warped world, apart from this AEW bubble, does a woman choose to do that? Because there's obviously this kind of weird atmosphere there where they're trying to appease these smelly basement dwellers and these Dave Meltzer and it's like you don't need to. Why are you trying to?
Does Meltzer say good stuff when they cut themselves, the women? I don't never seen one thing Dave has ever said. I don't think in my life.
We'll talk about some of the stuff this clown's saying, but yeah, I mean, I don't give a shit what he says. Like they are trolling Twitter when Mandy Rose is there doing a swimsuit photo shoot with the belt, going, "Oh, this has set back the business 20 years."
Oh, really? Oh my God. It shows you how much I look at what they say.
Absolute losers. Like, you're complaining about a hot girl in a bikini and you're praising a girl that cuts her face. Like this is like, I'm sorry, but like, I think I know what I'd rather see.
I want to see in the comments, see if people enjoy. What do you think they will say? Are they good with the girls cutting themselves the same and enjoy it when it happens, or if they think it's not right for the women to be bleeding in the ring like that? See which side they come on.
I couldn't care less.
I know you don't, but it's good to see.
There'll be some people that just want to disagree with everything I say, and there'll be some people that just I think more or less looking at these polls, they seem to be going with the WWE guys, so I think they'll probably agree with me.
We'll go to match of the year before we finish up with male wrestler of the year. So, okay. Do you want to do it that way, or you want to go the other way?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Match of the year. We gave you a choice between Flair and Lynch from Survivor Series, Bucks versus Lucha Brothers from All Out, Edge versus Rollins, Hell in a Cell, and Reigns, Edge, Bryant, WrestleMania. This one got close, Billy.
That's why. That's the only reason I was contemplating making it last. But yeah, like, because I know this was the poll result I was watching throughout the week.
So at 9% last, we get Flair and Lynch Survivor Series. And then we have at 19% the Bucks against the Lucha Brothers. Now is the tight one. Second place, first place divided by 2%. Coming in second place with 35%. Edge versus Rollins, Hell in a Cell. So the winner is WrestleMania. Reigns, Edge, Bryant, 37%.
Have you seen how many things Roman Reigns is winning?
Yeah, and I don't really have a problem. I think Roman has been, like I said, I'm terrified if he gets hurt. I'm like, please don't get hurt, because that's what is keeping me on SmackDown.
For those counting, that's storyline of the year, character of the year, heel of the year, and match of the year.
That's pretty good. That is pretty good. So we are finally at Wrestler of the Year. I wonder how we. I wonder what this is going to be. So it is going to be between Bobby Lashley, Kenny Omega, Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, either way, and Roman Reigns. Fourth place, Bobby Lashley. Fourth place out of all this. I mean, he had a pretty good year and finally got to where he should have been. So he's last. Third place, Kenny Omega with 10%.
Wow.
You know, I would switch these two because Daniel Bryan got 15. I'm like, well, at least Omega had the championship for a long time. So if you go by that.
Daniel Bryan did two very different characters across two companies this year. Like he missed a month or two and then went straight back onto AEW television as a babyface and then turned heel. I mean, without turning, but he did turn heel and then embraced that very well. So, and then he's got more matches as well. I think his matches are better than Kenny's throughout this year. I mean, people will say different, but they are. So,
well, that leaves first place with 71%. Acknowledge him. He is the tribal chief. That is Roman Reigns with a landslide. And can't really disagree with that. He should be Wrestler of the Year, not that is funny. On our poll, Omega gets 10%, but he wins on the PWI over Roman Reigns.
Yep.
So there is your poll. Thank you, everybody who voted and went to the Twitter to do that. Without you guys, we don't have all the votes. Do you have some insider news for us, Billy? But I want to ask you one question that I was asked by somebody at the golf store today. He goes, "Give me some inside news. Give me some inside news." And I go, "Well, I'm not the guy with the inside news. I asked somebody else." And he goes, "Is there any truth to the rumor?" And I never heard this before, that Triple H and The Rock are thinking of putting together a wrestling organization because so many people have been released. I said, I have never heard that ever, but I'll ask.
No.
I'm like, why would The Rock even bother? He'd go, all right, I'll put money into it. Triple H, you run it and give me some of the money from it, but I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, no, I heard nothing about that. Triple H is with the WWE. I mean, his role's been totally stripped down. But yeah, I mean, we'll start with that because I get a lot of questions. I mean, even Conan Disco asked me, like, where's Triple H? Has he been seen? He's made one visit down to the PC. Now, the identity that they're trying to establish here, and I've been told this by people, is that they've evolved from the cool indie promotion, the coolest indie promotion. We're going to own the coolest indie promotion, and then we're going to move the talent up to WWE. That's what Triple H was trying to do. He was trying to say these talents don't need to work on the indies. We can have them all, and we can get them ready for the main roster. Whilst NXT doesn't have to be an outright developmental territory. The new tagline for what NXT 2.0 is we are going to put green guys on television. We're going to go back to an old developmental, and we are only looking for people who can main event WrestleMania to come out of this. So that's the new look. So the whole thing is that we will put on what we will put on what we put on, but the hiring process will be dedicated around, do you really see this guy headlining WrestleMania? So it's the complete opposite, which is why we saw a clear. And that's not me looking at it and going, oh, what's the ethos of this one was this, and the ethos of that one was that. I don't know what the ethos was of the other one was. I know what they were doing. They were hiring everyone from the indies and trying to be the cool indie fit. That's my opinion. The tagline for the other one is a fact. I know that internally they want to move away from that NXT. And the point of 2.0 is to look for people who could genuinely main event WrestleMania. And that is going to be the key question behind a lot of their hires. And when they do start to look at AEW talents, I already said before, Brian Cage was there, and now it's come through something I already said ages ago with Russo, which is why I didn't bother with it here. Wardlow, yeah, he's on their radar. Wardlow and Brian Cage, they will be the two guys who they look at as legit and that they want to bring in. When everybody sits there and goes, oh, what if Kenny Omega came to WWE? Nick Khan, Vince McMahon, they don't give a like that's not a thing anymore. Kenny Omega, yeah, may have gone to NXT and had loads of matches with those guys, but now AEW is NXT, what it was. So that, I mean, it's like when WCW became 80s WWF, but you know, with Nat Caller Nash and the NWO was slightly cooler. That's all AEW is now. AEW is like NXT from 5 years ago, and I would argue it's not actually cooler. So there.
I think NXT was great at that point when it was Ciampa and Gargano and the spitting on the ring and throwing it into a crowd, and that
remember
was
that show we went to in New Orleans. That was
yeah,
great. Was better.
The takeover was unbelievable. We were jumping up and down. We were kids again watching that thing, that ladder match, because we were into the dream. Where's the dream at? He's got to come back. He got to go to AEW, just do something, just so he's out there again.
I think they're more social justice than WWE are.
You know what? You're probably right about that. I look at it now, and I'm sad because I see like they gotta get all the old football player or the football player, college football players, sign them for developmental, and you're like, so the guys who actually are into wrestling on the indies and really like this is their life and want to do it, it's like never mind them. Let's get guys who don't even care about wrestling and because they're big and maybe we could do something.
They'll sign indie guys who are 6'2". They'll sign indie guys at 6'2". But like, nobody said they weren't going to do that. So they're just not going to hire these midgets. And I see the point because it is odd from an outsider's perspective. With us, we grew up with it. Like we saw the transition from Hogan to Bret and Shawn and everything that they did. We accept the underdog. We accept CM Punk and Daniel Bryan and whatnot. Like it was phased into us. So it's kind of like this pandemic. Like I was talking about with my buddy last night. We were smoking a lot of weed, so that's why we ended up into these deep like conversations. But like after we come back, we were talking about the whole pandemic, and I said one of the things that fascinates me is that with this whole vaccine like situation, which we're not actually supposed to be talking about on here.
I was going to say, watch.
Yeah, with this whole like vaccine situation, it's and everything that these governments are asking people to do. It's not been a case of how did we get here? Like, because everyone goes, well, how did we get here? Well, you never questioned anything at the time. It was like a day by day, by week by week by week. It was a little thing. And through that, it's been all normalized. And that analogy, bringing it back around, that analogy works when you have a new fan that comes in and you see like the skinny guy that's smaller than you. And most wrestlers are now smaller than me. I'm 6'1" and I train. So most wrestlers are smaller than me. Like, so
I was looking at Danny Garcia yesterday, and I was saying this to Fausti. I was like, he reminded me of like an indie guy who just started. I'm like, he's thin, he's small, and then like Statlander was bigger than Adam Cole. So I'm like, yeah, and you do like you're taught to be, if Adam Cole showed up all of a sudden in even the 90s, like with Bret and Shawn, I don't know if he would have been able to get over as much.
Sometimes I cringe for them too, because I want them to succeed. I really do, despite what it sounds like. But I cringe for them when they did that Adam Cole, Britt Baker thing. I think they felt that was going to be something really big that they'd been like building up to. Like
they finally acknowledged that they're together, even though we all know one of those things.
Such a big couple. Like he's a huge star, she's a huge star, and they're together. Oh my god! It's like, but it was like, it's just Adam Cole. He's just come from like NXT. He's here. It's and she was a few years ago. She was getting beaten up by Nia Jax. Like I don't particularly care that they're together. I almost like. From my, in a non-homosexual way, I look at them too and think he could probably get in that. Like I'm not attracted to this woman in any way, shape, or form. She's got a face like a scream mask. So, not
gonna be able to watch Scream anymore. Well, my thought
today, right?
What's that? Yeah, it just came. I think it's the 14th.
Have you seen the documentary with David Arquette?
No, I don't think I have. About the wrestling thing?
Oh, you got to watch this thing. Like my buddy who's not who doesn't watch wrestling anymore. He stopped watching it. He used to go to WrestleMania with us and whatnot, but he doesn't watch it anymore. He goes, "Oh, he's still doing the wrestling thing. He's catching up." Yeah. He goes, "Oh, I got watch this documentary," and he put it on for me last night. I watched it with him. It's so good.
Is this his career, or is it just the wrestling thing?
No. It's like, and Bischoff's in it, and Russo.
Huh.
So, and it's like, Jesus. And I said to them, I work with both these guys. And I said to him, like, so the whole thing was essentially, he felt like he's a wrestling fan who felt like he embarrassed himself and wrestling. He feels like he completely disrespected it. And he wanted to go back and earn people's respect. He said he wanted to go so even though he's been the champion, he said he wanted to start at the bottom and pay his dues to pay back. Yeah. And he's like getting kicked out of him in like.
That's that death match we watch on.
Yeah, he goes and wrestles like, so in Mexico at the red lights, in traffic where the lights are red, they like fight on the streets.
God.
To get tips. They're hitting each other with chairs and everything. He had to go and do like. Matches in traffic, like little bits in traffic. You got to watch this thing, and then
I'll have to watch it. You say it's on Netflix?
No, it's I got it on my Sky, so I don't know where you'll probably have to find it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'll find it. Do you have any more news, or is that all you have?
Oh, I got a massive piece of news, but how's Cobra Kai going? Have you started?
I haven't. Well, I got to finish all my Royal Rumbles for Patreon still.
Oh,
After
man.
that's done, I am on it. I promise you. But I have to do all that stuff first. So, and I got 15 minutes before I got to get out of here. So give me that good news.
All right. So it's not. So what I'm doing here, I've got a couple of stories, and basically they're both corrections. I'm going to save one. No, we'll see where we're at for time. We'll see how long we discuss this for, and if I don't do the other one, we'll put it on next week's show to start out with, because it's not time sensitive. So Meltzer this week writes, and it says on the headline, spoilers about what will happen with the WWE Universal and WWE title heading into WrestleMania 38. And that's what really triggers me when it says spoilers. Like, this guy knows everything and he's been right the whole time. There's only one person that's been right all the time for the last 5 years, and that's me. And the reason I get pissed off about it, I don't get pissy with the comments, and that's something I explain on Keep It 100. I don't about what people are saying in the comments. The fact is what I get pissed off about is the lack of understanding that I am legit and what it takes to be legit. Now, I'm fortunate that I'm not as big as Meltzer or Saturn or Sean Ross Sapp. Most wrestling fans haven't heard of me. And that is why these people still talk to me. So being on Russo's show, being on Conan's show, this is as high as I can go. I can't create a website because I know when I was at my absolute peak on Sportskeeda and I had that biggest audience with my verified Twitter and whatnot, it was a lot more difficult. The people were giving me less than I'm getting now. So at this happy medium, I'm able to get a lot more information than the so-called main sources that give you the news. So in order to do that, on a week-to-week basis, I've got to go through people I know in production. I've got to go to people I know in creative. I've got to go to wrestlers. I've got to go to marketing. And I've got to remember to never go to the same people repetitively. So if I go to wrestler A, I can't ask wrestler A question for a couple of weeks. I then need to go to the crew. I can't send a text to marketing and then send another text to marketing. I can't keep restarting conversations to get gossip. It has to be tactfully played out on a week-to-week basis to get information, right? So that I can bring it to you without people working out that there is a major financial benefit and that I'm going super public with our conversations, right? Now, some people know and don't care, but some people don't know. So it takes a lot of juggling. It's too much hard work for what I get paid to do it, right? Compared to what I get over at my website, blockbetting.com, to do sports gambling and the respect I have with the gambling community, this ain't worth the grind, on a week-to-week basis. So when I see these crappy comments on the side, and when I see this with his nonsense being referred to as spoilers, that is the reason I do this in the first place. That's why I don't leave, because I see this and I get angry and go, spoilers, and then I read it and it's all wrong. That's why I want to have a platform to vent about how much crap comes out of this guy's mouth. So, or this is the written word here, but he did say it on his show. So let me read you this and let me let you know 100% that none of this is true.
Okay.
WWE champion Brock Lesnar, and I already did this bit on Conan's show, so before you complain, some people don't watch every second of every show because they go outside and do things. So I am going to repeat this, but it's new for Cav. So,
all right, you got 10 minutes with me, so go ahead.
WWE champion Brock Lesnar is set to defend his title against Bobby Lashley at the 2022 Royal Rumble Premium Live event, and Roman Reigns is expected to defend the title against Seth Rollins. Dave Meltzer says, Dave Meltzer discussed the current storyline direction for the Royal Rumble and Brock Lesnar with Paul Heyman heading into WrestleMania 38. It's pending. The plan for day one was that Seth Rollins was going to be the WWE champion coming off the show. No, he wasn't. And Lesnar was going to be the Universal Champion coming off the show. No, he wasn't. So Lesnar is now the WWE Champion. So I'm wondering if they are just going to go Seth. Now he starts to even tell you he's speculating. Seth was going to defend one title on one night at WrestleMania, and Lesnar and Roman were going to be for the other night on WrestleMania. I was kind of told it's going to end up where it's supposed to be. So I wonder if that means. Why are you wondering if it means? Why don't you ask Why don't you ask what it means? So I wonder if that means they're going to switch belts, like the Universal belt goes with Seth on Raw, and the WWE belt that Roman would end up with, most likely, I'm guess Brock would be on SmackDown, which was not the plan, but maybe how they end up recalibrating everything, because making me angry, because Roman missing the pay-per-view and them deciding to go with Brock to win the other titles. Brock was going to win one title. I can't say 100% Brock was going to win the other title, but I mean, I'm pretty sure. Seth, I know, was 100% the plan to win the WWE Championship, but Brock, now this is what he says, Brock had to be winning over Roman at day one because that was the second match. Roman won the first match. Heyman was going to end up with Brock. I figured that Heyman was going to screw Roman in that match, and that never happened. And instead of waiting to do the match at the Royal Rumble, the decision was made that Paul has already been fired, and we're not going to take him off TV. We're going to put him right with Brock right away with no storyline. I think that's how it was going to happen. I don't know what that means if Seth wins, but I think it makes sense that he would end up winning the title. Oh, there's just too many lies to unpack for me to even do that next bit of news. First of all, let me run through this. He's telling you, by the way, here. So just to paraphrase. Oh, Roman Reigns started talking by himself. So he's telling you here, to paraphrase the nonsense. Seth Rollins was going to win the championship. Brock Lesnar was going to win the championship. We would have two new champions crowned on a B pay-per-view, which was an experimental B pay-per-view, the first ever premium live event, and they were going to change all the titles. They were going to undo a year and a half's work with Roman Reigns, and they were just going to flip two titles just so that they could do Roman and Brock again, because he thought the only way you do it, in his opinion, is to flip the titles. He's also said that Heyman was going to end up with Brock. So he's telling you here that Roman Reigns was going to chase the championship as a babyface because he got screwed by Paul Heyman, and Heyman was going to end up with Brock. So what happens to Rock and Roman? Does Rock come in as a heel against Roman Reigns because you turned him babyface? This guy is such a liar from top to bottom. Seth Rollins, first of all, was never going to win the championship. Big E was going to win the championship, right? He was going to retain it. Mm-hmm. He was going to keep it, and then he was going to lose to Bobby Lashley. Where did you hear that Big E was going to lose the championship and that he was failing as a champion? You heard it here. I ain't seen in the comments about Big E losing the title and me being 100% correct about him failing as a champion. But there you go. We'll add that to all of the other stuff that I've got right throughout the year. So Big E was losing the championship at the Royal Rumble to Bobby Lashley. Brock Lesnar was losing at day one to Roman Reigns because Paul Heyman was going to show his loyalty to Roman the heel. The way Brock, now we have a brand new story where Paul Heyman has screwed Brock Lesnar. The story is Heyman versus Lesnar, with Roman being his wrestler, and Brock Lesnar was supposed to win the Royal Rumble. Very simple, very, very tidy. Now, this is where we are actually at now. The whole thing with Seth Rollins winning the championship and supposed to win the championship or whatever, I don't know who he had that from, but let me give you some advice, Dave Meltzer. Whoever you're talking to hates you, and you should stop talking to him. You're being trolled if you're not making this up by yourself, because only an enemy would give you this information. So the real plan was what I just said. Now, moving forward, the plan at the moment is very, very simple because it just gets you straight back to where you're at. Paul Heyman and MVP are supposed to be in cahoots to screw Brock Lesnar out of the championship. Now, this is plan A. Once Bobby Lashley realizes that he didn't beat Brock Lesnar by himself, which is actually, this is a story directly from Cobra Kai. When Bobby Lashley realizes that Roman Reigns, what am I talking about? When Bobby Lashley realizes that Paul Heyman and MVP were together and they planned to screw Brock Lesnar, he's going to fire MVP because he wanted to beat Brock Lesnar by himself, because he's Mr. Good Guy, and that's the last straw for MVP. So he goes into WrestleMania as a babyface, where we have the first ever black male versus black male main event on night one of Omos beating Bobby Lashley. That was supposed to be what happens. That is now plan A. And the rest of plan A is obviously Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, with Brock Lesnar being the Royal Rumble winner, or you could have Omos win the Royal Rumble and Brock Lesnar winning the Elimination Chamber, which could happen because we know Brock Lesnar has to work in Saudi, and Saudi now has the Elimination Chamber. So that's plan A. Now, the reason why I'm not 100% doubling down on that is because I know there's a plan B that can be dropped at any time, and I've been made very, very wary of that. Now, there were plans, tentative plans to unify Charlotte and Becky's titles at Survivor Series. It didn't happen. There are plans at some point to unify the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship at some point. This could happen at WrestleMania. If it doesn't, it could happen at the following WrestleMania. So when you're looking at Rock and Roman, don't be surprised if Rock comes in and beats the WWE Champion at the Royal Rumble, and then challenges Roman Reigns to a champion versus champions match, and that is the unification. But at some point, they want to bring these brands together, because Nick Khan has said, I want to bring the brands together because he finds it difficult to have one guy on one show, and the NBC can't use certain guys, and Fox can't use certain guys, because this isn't beneficial to the future of the company.
Thank God.
So Nick Khan wants to end that. So at some point, you can do the unification at any time. What's key to this is the commitment to Omos. Now, Omos and AJ Styles was blown off very quickly. You had that story here. I told you they were going to do a match. I told you Omos was going to win. And I told you they were never going to go back to it because they had bigger plans for both of them. Did I not, right?
You did.
Right. So the fact is, not only was that match important for blowing off the feud, it was important to look at Omos, because it was looked as a bar as to, this is the best guy that he can work with. This is the best Omos match that we can have. Did it pass the approval test? I don't know. If it didn't, they will unify the titles. If it did, they'll go ahead with the plan that I said. On the women's side of things, Sasha Banks is out of the Royal Rumble. She was supposed to win the Royal Rumble and face Charlotte. So I don't know what they're doing. I assume it's going to be someone from Raw. They could have Bayley return and go to Raw because she's never faced Becky, crazily on pay-per-view. Or they could just go with Bianca again, which looks like, from the TV this week, that could be something they do. I can't confirm that at the moment. So at the moment, that's everything that they're doing. This guy is full of shit. There is everything he said was wrong. Everything. Nothing there is right, other than they need to get back to Brock and Roman, which has been my story for 6 months anyway. So that's where we're at.
All right. That is your show this week. That is your Informer, and that was big news that you got. So we hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back next week with some more breaking news and dropping some bombs on people. The only place that you should get it, and that is from Mr. Billy Body. Go to lockbetting.com. Go to @Lingus Mafia. Get all the info you need there, and we'll see you next week.